There are many topics in the field of economics, but there are two basic subdivisions: microeconomics and macroeconomics. What topics lie under each of these major headings? What are the primary concerns for micro and macro? This resource will begin to answer these questions. First, let us find the focus for microeconomics. Microeconomics is the study of individual level decisions. What exactly constitutes an individual, as defined by economics? It could be a single household, an individual firm, or a government. Microeconomics studies what the individual spends their money on, how they earn their money, and many other considerations. Once all these decisions are made, microeconomics then considers how those decisions affect an entire market. In economics, a market means much more than the local grocery store. A market is all the firms involved in the production and sale of a particular good or service. For example, we could consider the market for automobiles, hairstyling, or frozen concentrated orange juice. Microeconomics also helps an informed, educated citizen determine the effectiveness with which a government performs its roles in a market economy. Does the government's actions help or hinder the flow of goods and services? Does it make it easier or more difficult for firms to produce and sell their goods? When considering these and other effects the government has on the economy, we begin to shift from microeconomics to macroeconomics. Macroeconomics studies the entirety of a nation's economy. It does not focus on one individual market. It looks at the sum total of all the markets. Macro does look at the actions of a government, but on a much larger scale. Rather than focusing on the purchases of and employment opportunities provided by the government, macroeconomics looks at the larger concepts affected by the government. And what are those focal points? Macroeconomics focuses on three primary concerns for the government: inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. As we will see in a later resource, inflation has major impacts on investing, savings, the money supply, and many other topics. We will also consider an economic definition of unemployment, and how not all unemployment is necessarily bad. The final primary concern from macroeconomics is economic growth, measured by the gross domestic product. Macroeconomics also studies international trade. When does it make sense for a nation to trade with another? What concerns exist due to the flow of goods between nations? How are different forms of money exchanged for one another? And how does that exchange rate affect each nation? We answer all these questions and more in future resources.